Hi friends! My name is Beatrice, and this is Bea-Sides, the show where I, a queer, trans, leftist gay, give you my takes on things in the world. Seeing as it is spooky season, I watched the 1975 classic The Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time. Before I get into the movie itself, it's worth noting that Richard O'Brien, who played Riff Raff in the movie and also wrote the show and musical, said some kind of turfy stuff back in 2020. To me, it mostly comes off as like an out-of-touch queer boomer take, and I'm not going to get into it in this video. However, it does bear repeating that trans women are, in fact, women, and that women in general are more than our body parts and our chromosomes, and that sex is not the same as gender, and that transphobia sucks. And this is your reminder to be nice in the comments. Transphobia and general dickishness will not be tolerated. I will just delete your comments. So, as I mentioned before, this is my first time ever watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and my take is that it rules. It was so fun, so campy, so queer, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The transsexual Transylvanians were so fun and joyful and unapologetic and so queer and diverse in a way that I can only imagine was pretty revolutionary for the time in which the movie was made. Perhaps the most outwardly queer character is none other than the man himself, Dr. Frankenfurter, played by the incomparable Tim Curry. And I do say man in this situation because Frank calls himself a sweet transvestite. Transvestite literally just means crossdresser. So Frank's a crossdresser, which is not the same thing as a transgender woman. He seems to be comfortable in his male identity and just likes to dress in clothing that is deemed traditionally feminine and wear high heels and makeup and stuff. So for the most part, Frankenfurter is a fun character. He's flamboyant, he's fierce, he's unapologetically queer. And seeing that he's a thinly veiled parody of Dr. Frankenstein, he's discovered the secret to life itself, which, incidentally, is a mixture of various rainbow-colored liquids, and has used that knowledge to create the perfect creature. The difference between old Frankenstein and our Frankenfurter is that Frankenfurter made his man, named Rocky, to be a lover of sorts. And hey, I get it. It's hard out here being a single gay. Whomst among us can say that they wouldn't craft their ideal partner and douse them in the mystery rainbow liquids of life if they could? Anywho, this is where we start getting into some sticky territory. It's very clear that Rocky is just a confused little man and that Dr. Frank wants to take his fresh little beefcake out for a ride. And it's kind of a little sketchy to me that Frank essentially created like a sex slave for himself. Maybe more than a little sketchy. But hey, at least Rocky seems into it, so it's like consensual, hopefully. But then, unsated by his fun with Rocky, Frankenfurter definitely crosses the sex crime threshold and tricks both Janet and Brad into having sex with him, which is a big no-no. These scenes are definitely meant to be played for laughs, with Frankenfurter's genius disguise being nothing more than some sort of magic wig that allows him to change his voice and convince both Janet and Brad that he is Brad and Janet respectively. And of course, after very little convincing, both Janet and Brad give in to Dr. Frankenfurter and seem to enjoy themselves. Despite that fact, this isn't an all's well that ends well kind of situation. As much as I enjoyed the movie, these scenes just kind of don't sit right with me. Make no mistake, Dr. Frankenfurter isn't meant to be a positive role model. He's cruel to his servants and to his guests, and he literally murders a guy and then feeds him to the aforementioned guests. Frank's a bad dude. However, I feel like his sexually aggressive tendencies can be portrayed without him literally assaulting Brad and Janet. Not only do I think it's unnecessary to the plot, it plays into the harmful trope that queer folks are all just sexual deviants out to get you. And unfortunately, that trope lives on even today and is used to justify homophobic and transphobic action against the queer community. Right-wing pundits claim that drag queen storytime events are equivalent to exposing kids to sexual debauchery. There's legislation like Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which puts both queer teachers and youth at risk in public schools under the guise of protecting children from inappropriate topics. Trans women are still murdered every year by sexual partners who claim a trans panic defense, saying that they didn't know that she was a trans woman and, trying to justify their violence. Of course, here in the real world, queer folks aren't all sexual deviants out to get you. Trans folks don't transition just to commit sex crimes. As a matter of fact, there's no evidence to suggest that we're lurking in bathrooms waiting to assault people. Nor do trans women try to trick men into sleeping with them. And drag queens reading children's books at your local library aren't going there to indoctrinate your kids. Now, I'm quite sure that fanning the flames of homophobia was not on the list of intentions behind Rocky Horror. Honestly, no part of the movie or show really comes off as, mean-spirited to me at all. That said, I can't help but cringe at the optics of the aforementioned scenes, especially in light of the political climate we're living in. If Rocky Horror came out today, I can only imagine the field day that Ben Shapiro types would have. I feel like Fox News would be ablaze with discourse, and, the transphobes would come out writ large on Twitter, and Tucker Carlson would cream himself. It would not be a good look. I'm not saying hashtag cancel Rocky Horror or anything, and nor am I asking for like a reboot or an edit to the movie. I think overall it's a fun experience and well worth the watch even 50 years on. At the same time, I think it's important to be critical of things we love and to think a little deeper about stuff from time to time. And if I were to produce a performance of the show, I might tweak the script a little, since I don't think that the rapey vibes are necessary or add to the story in any way that's meaningful. But hey, I'm just a sweet trans woman from transsexual Transylvania. I want to hear what you think.